1. I've got to preface this a little bit with my father's background. I feel like it explains things pretty well. Kinda. My dad's side of the family are pretty damn country. My grandfather was a retired gunsmith, and my grandma grows her own veggies. My dad played football all through high school, and when he wasn't doing that, he was hunting and fishing. I grew up used to the fact that my dad did things the country way. He went to feed stores and got vaccinations for all our dogs, and administered them himself. When they got too old to eat, he put them down and dug the graves himself. When his arch-fucking nemesis shot up our house, he took justice into his own hands. Or attempted to. My dad's first company was a pretty successful fire safety company in the area, until his best friend and co-owner ran off with all the clients. This left my family with nothing. We were very, very poor and had to relocate 300 miles away to live with his parents. This should have been the last we'd heard of his old best friend, but evil never dies. Or whatever. Flash forward 11 years, we'd been living in a small town south of Dallas for about 6 years now, and things were okay. We were still poor, just not as poor. But we were living in a house again, and the business was doing well, so things were good. Until Jimmy Ray Jr. showed up. Jimmy was the eldest son of the dirtbag who fucked over my dad, and he came to us asking for a job so he could get away from his shitty father. He had a wife and a baby on the way, and he just had to get out from under the thumb of his father. My dad has a thing for taking in strays, so soon Jimmy was working for my dad. Now Jimmy was a real fucking creep. He used to hit on me constantly, going so far as to pull me in his lap as often as he could, and delighted in asking me if certain things turned me on. I hated him, and told my parents this constantly. They wouldn't believe that Jimmy was a bad guy. But then things started getting really weird. We lived just outside city limits at the time, and there was always a lot of space between you and your neighbors. This meant that lots of activity could go on, and they probably wouldn't notice. This also meant that the truck parked down the street all day every day was actually pretty visible to us. At first, we thought the old couple down at the bend had purchased a new truck, and maybe there just wasn't enough space in their driveway. Until my mom drove by on her way back from groceries and saw a man in the back of the truck with binoculars in his lap. This continued on for weeks, until one day the truck just wasn't there anymore. Then other stuff happened. It was a Monday night and everyone was knocked out. Dad had work, Mom had work, and my 2 brothers and I had school the next day. Imagine the terror when the back door sounds like someone is going at it with a battering ram. Riley, the oldest of my 2 brothers, was first to jump up. I was next, despite having the room furthest away from the living room. The door was pushed in, being held by the chain. Everyone else came filing in after us, confused and tired. Riley started to shout that someone had kicked in the door, but my parents wouldn't hear it, and said the weather must have done it. After all, it was a stormy night. Riley and I disagreed. It wasn't that stormy, and the nails that held the chain to the wall had been ripped nearly all the way out. The doorknob was messed up, it wasn't the weather. A couple more weeks passed, and we're dealing with the same shit. Fire extinguishers going missing, doors getting hammered on, our dog losing her fucking shit every night. The final straw for my dad? My stoner-ass brother took a couple of his friends out to my van in the middle of the night to smoke. Our driveway was fairly long and my van was parked at the very end. It needed to be fixed up, so better to have it out of the way. There was still driveway to spare as it was long and very wide. Riley says they heard the truck, but just assumed it had stopped at the stop sign. But then there was gunfire. We're talking sprays of bullets. And instead of ducking for cover, The dumbass busts out of the van with his friends just in time for the shooter to jump back into his truck and the driver to peel out. Well, my dad sure as hell believes us now. Instead of calling the cops, he called Jimmy, asked him if he knew anyone with a truck that matched the description my brother provided. And when he said yes, it all clicked into place. You see, Jimmy's dad was real pissed his son went to work for the competition. He took it as a personal attack that my dad had accepted Jimmy with open arms, and he was willing to do what it took to get Jimmy to quit or convince my dad to fire him. Instead, my dad hatched a plan. He and Jimmy spent days shoving long nails into thick rope. They covered the windows, they stocked the barn and the house with provisions. They sent the rest of us away for Thanksgiving and waited. The plan was simple. They assumed that since they were being watched, Jimmy's dad would think we had all gone off for the holidays, probably try to break in while we were away, and then, when he did, would find my dad waiting for him gun in hand. And if he managed to get away, that's when Jimmy, who had been forced to wait in the barn, would pull the nail-riddled rope across the street and bust their tires. But no one ever showed. You see, Jimmy had decided to go back to his dad, told him so, even went so far as to make copies of all our invoices. And since he had given some to his old man, the guy decided to leave us alone. But Jimmy didn't leave right away. No, he had plans. Plans that entailed trapping a 17-year-old girl in her room. Plans that involved betraying his wife. Plans that involved betraying the man who had taken him in. Now, he never got far with me, but he did manage to steal half of our clients and send us back into a financial tailspin. Like father, like son. So Jim, let's not meet. You wouldn't like it very much. 2. My sister, 20, female obviously, and I, 17 female, decided to go to the Dollar Tree because she needed to find glitter and gift boxes to make presents for her friends. It's dark as hell already because it's winter, and it's also minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit outside. We get out of the car and scurry up to the store to get in, before our non-existent testicles freeze and fall off. As we approach the door, some guy walks out from behind one of the pillars. He's wearing some plaid jacket, and his pants are halfway down his thighs, like a total gangster, yo. You want to buy this incense burner for $2? I need to buy cigarettes, he says, procuring this Stone Angel incense burner from within his jacket, stopping us as we try to get in. My sister just looks at him like, fuck off and die please, while I stupidly tell him that I don't have any money, only my debit card. My sister tugs me along into the store, and immediately tells me I'm a fucking dumbass. Ah yes, sisterly love. I'm kind of spooked at how stupid I was, but whatever. We just look around the store for what we need. As we're looking for something, I hear, "Hey sexy," from down the aisle. Thinking it's the guy from outside, I whip around and confront him. It actually turns out to just be one of our mutual friends. So while we're looking around for glitter, which was in the candle aisle, who the hell knows why, we're chatting it up with him. We tell him about the creepy guy outside, and we kind of just laugh it off. Well, as we're standing there talking, glitter in hand, the guy enters the store and walks past us, heading up the aisle that we were just in. Okay, maybe he got someone to give him the money, I think. Then I remember that he wanted it for cigarettes. They don't sell cigarettes at the Dollar Tree. Oh shit. As my sister and I move into the checkout line with our friend, along with his sister, stepdad, and one of his friends behind us, the guy begins to lurk behind the displays close to the front of the store. He keeps staring directly at me with this creepy look. We whisper to our friend that the guy is still following us, and ask him to walk out to our car when he leaves. Mind you, this guy is 400 pounds, and one of the sweetest guys I know. He agrees to walk us out to our car, since they're parked not far away from us. My sister and I stand at the front of the store, just beyond the checkouts, while he and his entourage finish checking out. The guy had gotten in line behind them at some point, even though he wasn't holding anything. They're taking a while because his stepdad is chatting up the manager about who knows what afterwards. The guy had plenty of time to check out and leave, but he's still there, dawdling around, staring at my sister and I. When my sister and I begin to leave the store, he starts following us, thinking that our friend and his posse are going their separate ways. However, when he realizes that this hulking mass of a teddy bear is escorting us to our car, he runs off to whence he came, which was hiding in the shadows alongside the store. My sister quickly gets in the car, thanking our friend and locking the doors as she does so. We drive out of the parking lot as fast as legally possible and begin to head home. As we're driving down the road, I notice something. The guy from the store is walking alongside the street, smoking. 3. This happened a few years ago, and suffice to say, I don't like being home alone anymore. I was a 21-year-old female in my 3rd year of university. I live in England. My boyfriend and I lived about 2 minutes away, and we often stayed at each other's houses. Although there wasn't an exact routine to it. The city we lived in wasn't known for being particularly safe, but I never once felt threatened. Although I was a country girl at heart, I never took unnecessary risks, but even walking through typically unsafe parks in the dark after choir, I was never given reason to be alarmed. The scary things always happened to someone else, right? My boyfriend lived in a house with 3 other guys, one of whom dropped out halfway through the year. The house had a previous history of break-ins, and just before they rented, it had a new lock fitted on the front door. The previous year, a burglar had actually knocked the door down, despite it facing a busy street. That being the case, everyone was pretty diligent in locking the doors, whether we were inside or not. On the night in question, my boyfriend was out at his band rehearsal, having left at 6:30 p.m., and his 2 remaining housemates left to go to the pub at 8 p.m. I wasn't much of a drinker, so I opted to stay at home, and in the blissful hour to myself, I decided to have a shower. Now, I'm in my uni choir and I absolutely adore singing, so I grabbed my phone and speaker and headed to the bathroom. I don't often get the chance to really blast it out when people are in the house, out of consideration for them, so I was relishing the opportunity. My phone was at about 15%, but I figured it'd last for the majority of the time in there, and I could just charge it when I get out. So I'm in the shower, having an absolute banger of a time, when my phone predictably dies about 20 minutes in. I was done washing a few minutes ago, so I just get out, get dry, and head to my and my boyfriend's room. As soon as I walked out of the bathroom, I got this feeling that something wasn't right. I was home alone, but I had this terrible sense like I wasn't the only one in the house, even though the house was absolutely silent, for save the slight sound of traffic. I shrugged it out, figuring I'm just being paranoid, and dumped my stuff on the bed. To give some context, the room is pretty large with a desk opposite the door, large bay windows with curtains drawn across them, and to the left is a large wardrobe. My boyfriend often liked to hang sheets and duvet covers to dry on their open doors, which drove me mad because it looked so untidy. The reason I bring this up is that immediately I felt like something was off. Firstly, my bedroom light was on, and I could have sworn I'd switched it off. And secondly, the sheet hanging on the wardrobe was in a crumpled heap on the floor, and the wardrobe door was shut. Cold shivers ran up and down my body, and honestly, I still get shivers thinking about that moment. The first moment I realized someone was in my bedroom, and I was completely defenseless. I froze for a moment or two, and then the thought occurred to me that maybe someone had broken in, as it had happened before, and I had just interrupted them. It seemed the most logical explanation, so I grabbed my phone and made out like someone had called me. "Oh, hey, Katie." My voice was too high-pitched and fake, but I carried on with my oh-so-clever ploy. "Yeah, I'm just getting ready, I just need to..." I cursed and forced a laugh at this point. I cringed at how unconvincing it was, but I was like a cornered rabbit. "I forgot to shave my legs. I'll nip and do that now. Talk to you in a second." Clutching my dad phone to my chest, I pretty much bolted for the bathroom, locked the door, switched the shower on, and switched off the light. I sat opposite the door, shaking and crying, watching the light streaming in and waiting for the person to pass me and run downstairs. I saw the shadow of their footsteps before they arrived, but instead of going downstairs, they halted just outside the door. I clapped a hand over my mouth to stop myself sobbing out loud, and I swear the creepiest voice I've ever heard rasped, "I know you're in there, little girl." I tried to shout, but in reality my voice broke as I said, "I'm calling the police right now." The man just laughed and laughed, banging on my door harder and harder until I thought it would break. Then he stopped, and then banging was replaced by something altogether more sinister. A scratching, scraping sound up and down the door. I practically wet myself there and then, trying to find something to defend myself with. Best I had was the disgusting toilet brush and a can of shaving foam. All of a sudden, everything stopped, and I could hear him absolutely legging it down the stairs and into the kitchen. Seconds later, I heard the front door bang, and then eventually, someone walking up the stairs. I was still holding my makeshift weapons, and crying so hard I could barely see, when I heard my boyfriend swear, and I finally managed to unlock the door and let him in. Turns out there were grooves all down the door. The man had a knife. He was scraping down the door with a knife. I made my boyfriend call the police and stay with me till they arrived, even though he wanted to check the house over to make sure the man had actually gone. I was so scared, though, that he ended up sitting in the bathroom with me until they arrived, took a statement, and scanned for prints. It turns out one of the guys had left the back door open when he went to check the meter. That means whoever snuck in here knew it was left open. We were otherwise very diligent about locking the doors, as I've said, and they knew that no one else but me was in the house. They also must have entered someone's house whose back gardens face our garden, or they must have sneaked in the flats next door to climb over the wall separating the properties. If he did that, someone must have let them in. My boyfriend's rehearsal finished about half an hour early, meaning that he was back before the man clearly expected. My only explanation is that he must have had someone outside watching, because that's the only way he'd have had time to bolt down the stairs in full view of the front door and out of the back door still in plain sight, if he hadn't had some prior warning. That means someone else was involved, and I shudder to think what might have happened in the extra half hour he thought he had. The thing that really gets me, though, is that he knew I'd be at my boyfriend's house, which room I was in, and he'd brought a knife. This wasn't an accident. He'd been watching. He knew where we'd all be, and he knew exactly what he was doing. The police found prints, but it wasn't anyone in their system, and they never found him. The bastard's still out there doing who knows what, and no one knows who he is. I know it's not my fault, and if I did anything differently, I might not be here to tell the tale. But I wish I had been able to do something more to identify him and get him off the streets. I can't bear the thought of him succeeding where he failed with me. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 207. Well, I think it's quite clear that those good old boys in story number 1 there were meaning some harm. I said I wasn't going to do that, but I couldn't resist. Okay, so this is Monday, I believe. I'm getting muddled up because I'm doing different kinds of videos. Yeah, this will be Monday. Okay, so let's see. We'll have a bit of a recap. We'll have subscriber stories. We'll have those on Tuesday. Hopefully more True Scary Stories on Wednesday. And I think we're okay for a glitch on Thursday. I've got most of what I need for that. And Friday Paranormal sorted there. I'll need to get more of those, but I've got plenty just now. And I think we'll be okay for a TIFU, because even if I can't get any from Reddit, I've got loads from you lovely subscribers, so we'll be okay for a TIFU on Saturday. And I'll be having to think about what I want to do next Sunday. I want to put something different up, like we had the different video yesterday. I might try and do maybe a sleep paralysis video. Might do one of those ages ago, couldn't quite get it together. Or maybe something else. Something different anyway. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.